those of you that don't know me, my name's Bron. I'm part of the team here. And we've been in a relationship series. Pastor Phil started us off 2 weeks ago with a message called Move On to Freedom. It was an incredible message about forgiveness. I'm sure there were some powerful conversations in life groups that week. And then last week, we not only had our parenting seminar, but Pastor Lisa from Equippers Church shared on Sunday an amazing word called restored. If you have missed them, they are on YouTube, on Spotify. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram. There's no reason to miss out, so catch up. This week, we are continuing our relationship series, and I get to speak on friendships. So I'm going to call this message, Don't Do It Alone, because we don't need to do it alone. I'm going to start by reading from Ecclesiastes 4, verse 7 to 12. I observed yet another example of something meaningless under the sun. This is the case of a man who is all alone, without a child or a brother, yet who works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. But then he asks himself, who am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It is all meaningless and depressing. It's a little bit sad. 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But if someone falls alone, someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, 2 people lying close together that can keep each other warm. But one person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but 2 can stand back to back and conquer. 3 are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. I love that. 2 big standout statements there. Meaningless and depressing, and triple braided cord not easily broken. Personally, I know which one I want to be involved in. Yes. There is a strength that comes from being together, a strength in relationship and friendship. God said right at the beginning, it is not good for man to be alone. We were created for communion and relationship. We yearn for friendship. So like I said before, I remember my first week of youth group here. I was 15 years old, albeit a little bit full of attitude, but I was very excited to be here. I was excited to make friends and to just figure out what this was all about. And the youth leaders and the teenagers were so welcoming. I found friendship here. Now, on that first week, I walked in and I was given a yellow ribbon because we were split into tribes. And we were going to do tribal wars that term. I had never done tribal wars before. It sounded very exciting, being someone with a very naturally competitive spirit. And so my team was yellow. We had to come up with a team name and a tribe poster. We were taken out to the back car park. We were given big pieces of car park, big pieces of cardboard, whole bunch of spray cans, and we were told to paint our tribe poster and give ourselves a name. It was very exciting. I'd never used spray paint before, so, I wanted to try my hand at it. Wasn't very good at it. My team was called Monkey Feet. I don't know why we called ourselves Monkey Feet. I just went for it. If I'm really, really raw and honest, the really, really good-looking boy on my team wanted to call us Monkey Feet, and I just went, yeah, okay, cool. I'm okay with that. My team won as well. Told you I was competitive. Now, this term of friendship building gave me such a sense of belonging. 22 years later, I'm still here in this church. The friendships and relationships I built in youth group have had such an impact on who I am now. Core memories were made. My email address through my teen years was monkeyfeet@hotmail.com. It had a big impact on me. It's a much more responsible, serious email address now that I'm not nervous to give over to the bank teller. So my email address may no longer be Monkey Feet, but my love of friendship is still there. I mean, who doesn't love being around safe people and having a good laugh? I got to hang out with Belinda this week. We took a trip to Bunnings and we spray painted the brackets apparently all my core memories are based around cans of spray paint. Um, Even though we were working, just being with my friend, doing something hands-on, it was like food for my soul. I had such a good time. So we know friendships are healthy, but yet we have this thing today called a loneliness epidemic. Have we heard of this? So I read that a loneliness epidemic refers to the rising trend of loneliness and social isolation as a global public health concern, with significant negative impacts on mental and physical health. While social isolation is the lack of social connections, loneliness is the subjective experience of feeling a disconnect between one's desired and actual social relationships. This issue affects people of all ages and backgrounds, leading to increased risks of depression, heart disease, dementia, and premature death. The World Health Organization has declared loneliness a public concern and is spearheading efforts to find solutions. So, keeping that worldly definition in mind, let's read Ecclesiastes 4, verse 7 to 8 again. I observed yet another example of something meaningless under the sun. This was the case of a man who was all alone, without a child or a brother, yet who works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. But then he asked himself, why am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It is also meaningless and depressing. It sounds to me like the World Health Organization is catching up with what God has been telling us for thousands of years. We weren't designed to be alone. It has a detrimental effect on our mental and physical health because we were created for communion and friendship and relationship. We're not meant to do this life alone. No man is meant to be an island. So I guess the first thing I want to say is get out there. Make friends. Get around your community. Jesus had friends. Jesus had good friends. He had his mates and his inner circle. Jesus certainly did not spend his time on earth alone. And you might be thinking, well, I'm lonely, but I'm busy. Or I'm going through a hard time right now. Maybe you're thinking, but I have anxiety and social situations are difficult for me. Maybe it's none of those things and you're just thinking, no, I'm all good. I don't need anyone. Truthfully, I can relate to all of these things. I love my friends now. I have recently discovered that I'm very, very social. A couple of months ago, Steve and I were preparing to have someone over for dinner. I can't remember who it was. And I remember turning to him and going, when did we become those social people that have people over for dinner all the time? Those of you that have known me for longer than 10 years understand why I'm saying that. Because in the past, I wasn't necessarily comfortable talking to anybody. I wasn't really comfortable hanging out socially. I was that one that would go out and watch the clock and be like, okay, in half an hour, it will be socially acceptable for me to leave. And I would have done it. But I made a decision that I was going to invest in friendship, that I wasn't going to stay that way, that if I wanted to grow and develop, I couldn't stay stuck in my own little world, only focusing on me, hiding at home. I needed to put myself out there. So I remember making a very intentional decision that I was going to start with one friend. I thought I'm just going to start with one friend, one relationship, not to be dependent on that person or to hang off them because I wanted a healthy relationship. So I didn't want to be dependent on them, but I thought I'm just going to start with one friendship. I can do that. I can do it. And I discovered I could. I could do that. I could handle one friendship. But then that one friendship turned into two friendships because, the friend I chose was really healthy. So they had multiple friends. So if I was going to be a friend to that person, I had to talk to their friends as well and continue to put myself out there. And so I did. And so that one friendship turned into 2, 3, 4, 5, so on. And it just kept going. And I wasn't so lonely anymore. I still had to get healthy. I still had to get through that season. But I had the joy and benefit of friendship and communion at the same time. You see, I started to develop my triple braid cord that's not easily broken. And I don't regret it. I love it. I have great friendships now. So, we can establish that friendship and meaningful relationships are important. Even Jesus had friends. Jesus had good friends. But what happens when it's done wrong? Is every friendship beneficial? Is every friendship going to grow you and take you to a new level? Well, have you heard the statement, show me your friends and I'll show you your future? Youth leaders used to say that to us all the time when we were teenagers. And it stuck with me, so keep saying it because it sticks with us. There's a Bible verse for it as well. Proverbs 13 verse 20 says, walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get into trouble. So yes, we want friends. Friends are important. But we want the right friends. We want healthy friends. We want healthy friendships. Have you ever noticed that the decisions that you make in life can quite often be very closely associated with the people that you're hanging out with? Have you ever walked away from a conversation and thought to yourself, gee, I probably shouldn't have said that. Oh, I think I might have gossiped. Probably shouldn't have been involved in that. But you were placed in a circle of friends that might have been saying the wrong things, that might have been gossiping, that might have been speaking negatively. And because you were in that situation, you compromised on things that you probably wouldn't compromise with if you were with healthy people. At the same time, have you ever had your friends build you up and take you to new levels? So I shared a story at the parenting seminar last week about a certain stage in my life where I wasn't necessarily making good choices. Nothing sinister, just wasn't necessarily the wisest choice. And a dear friend of mine came and challenged me. She challenged me on the decision I was making. Make sure that you have ears to hear what your friends are saying. And that challenge, that thing that she said, was a pivotal moment in my life. And everything changed after that, and I went to a new level. You see, your friends can help build your faith. They can kick lack of faith out of the room. And they can carry you when you're weak and hold you accountable when you need it. Now, I said earlier that Jesus had his friends. I mean, here's the perfect example, isn't he? He had his disciples. He had Lazarus. Did you know he also had his inner circle? He had his closest three. Now, there's a story in the New Testament that I want to talk about where Jesus raises the little girl Talitha back to life. And it's very relevant to this conversation about friendships. So I'm going to read from Mark 5, verse 35 to 43. While he was speaking to her, messengers arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. They told him, your daughter is dead. There's no use troubling the teacher now. But Jesus overheard them and said to Jairus, don't be afraid, just have faith. Then Jesus stopped the crowd and wouldn't let anyone go with him except Peter, James, and John, his inner circle, his core friends. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw how much commotion and weeping and wailing. He went inside and asked, why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead, she's only asleep. The crowd laughed at him, but he made them all leave. He took the girl's father and mother and his 3 disciples into the room where the girl was lying. Holding her hand, he said, Talitha cum, which means little girl, get up. And the girl, who was 12 years old, immediately stood up and started walking around. They were overwhelmed and totally amazed. Jesus gave strict orders not to tell anyone what had happened, and he told them to give her something to eat. Notice who Jesus takes in the room with him and who he kicks out. So the crowd was weeping and wailing because they believed that the girl was dead. Jesus comes along and says she's only sleeping. And they laugh at him. They make fun of him. So he kicks them out. Are there friendships, relationships, conversations, lack of faith that you need to kick out of the room? That doesn't mean you need to disown these people. There may be some friendships you need to end. You can ask God about that. But my point is, don't take your miracle opportunities and your faith moments to faithless people. Who did Jesus take in the room? He took his 3 best mates. He took his inner circle. He took those that he knew would partner with him in faith and power and believe for the miracle. Do you have friends like that? If you don't, get some. Are you a friend like that? If you want to have faith-filled friends who encourage you and lift the lid and rip the roof off, be a friend like that. Be that for someone else. Because what you sow into relationships, you will reap back. And when you sow with God, it comes back multiplied. I want to talk about another group of friends now. Mark 2, verse 1 to 5. And you guys would have heard this preached lots and lots and lots of times here. When Jesus returned to Capernaum several years later, the news spread quickly that he was back home. Soon the house where he was staying was so packed with visitors that there was no more room, even outside the door. While he was preaching God's word there, 4 men arrived carrying a paralyzed man on a mat. They couldn't bring him to Jesus because of the crowd, so they dug a hole through the roof above his head. Then they lowered the man on his mat right down in front of Jesus. Seeing their faith, Jesus said to the paralyzed man, "My child, your sins are forgiven." Sometimes we have moments in life where we need the faith of our friends around us. I love how Jesus sees the faith of the 4 friends, and that is why the miracle comes about. You see, there will be seasons in your life where you're going to be like the man on the mat, needing friends to rip the roof off our lives so that we can experience healing. There will also be times where you are the friend ripping the roof off for your mate on the mat. But for either one of those moments to happen, you need to have faith-filled friends around you, and you need to be a faith-filled friend. Maybe you're thinking, I have no faith right now. I'm the one wailing and broken, just like the people that got kicked out of the room. That's real life. We go through seasons like that, don't we? You don't have to stay that way. You don't have to stay there. I remember I'll be really raw with you guys. I remember this is the most broken I had ever been in my life. And I was here in this church. Like I said, I've been here for many, many years, and this church has seen me through so many different seasons. And I remember there was this one particular week, and I had reached the bottom of the bottom. I had nothing left. I was the broken person on the mat needing my friends. And I remember walking down for prayer right there. I was standing right there. My friend at the time was standing here, and she was worship leading. And I was broken. I came to respond to an altar call, and there was nothing left. I was in this absolute state of panic. But I had my friends around me. And they came and they prayed for me. They loved on me. They didn't leave me alone in that moment. They were there. I had faith-filled friends carrying me on the mat, leading me towards the right direction, pointing me to God, to my healing, so that I could grow and get healthy and get strong. And my friend actually came to me around about that same time, and she said to me, "Bron, be at everything. Be at everything. If there is something happening at church, you be there. If this place is open, be there. Be at life group, be at Sunday services, stay on team, get involved, get connected. Don't miss a single thing. Because how can the faith of my friends rub off on me if I'm hiding at home by myself? How can they build me up if I'm not with them? Be in the room. Stay connected. Don't do the journey alone. If I hadn't have stayed connected, I wouldn't have got healthy and whole. If the paralyzed man refused to be carried, because it takes humility. Sometimes it's easier to go, no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine on my own. I can do it. But it takes being humble. And if the paralyzed man didn't allow the 4 friends to carry him, he wouldn't have got healed. If Jairus, Talitha's father, listened to the people around him who laughed at Jesus and didn't believe for the miracle, his daughter wouldn't have been raised from the dead. If we stayed disconnected on our own, saying, she'll be right, I don't need anyone, we'll miss out on the strength of the triple braided cord relationship we read about at the start of this message. Friends matter. Connection matters. Don't do it on your own. Now, you might be thinking, I don't have any friends. I don't have any positive friends. We're going to do something really, really practical soon to address that. Because as I said, you don't have to do it on your own. But I want to first say, you have Jesus. John 15, verse 15 to 17 says, I no longer call you slaves, because a master doesn't confide in his slaves. Now you are my friends. Since I have told you everything the Father told me. You didn't choose me, I chose you. I appointed you to go and produce lasting fruit, so the Father will give you whatever you ask for in my name. This is my command. Love each other. Never, ever forget that he chose you. And he calls you friend. So maybe you need to start. Maybe that one person that you need to decide you're going to be friends with is Jesus. Maybe that one first step that you need to take is Jesus. Looking back on that moment in my life where I was so broken and alone, I pressed so hard into God. So hard. I got right into my word. I got right into studying my Bible and worshiping. And I remember reading my Bible once and I had this giddy feeling come over me. This joy bubbling up started to come over me. And I remember saying, God, what is this? I've never felt like this before. What is this? And God said to me, I'm showing you what love is so that you recognize it when it comes along. If you feel like you've never recognized love, if you feel alone, press into God. Let him show you what love is. Let him show you what friendship is and communion is. Press into him, and then you will have that core foundation that you need to build healthy, lasting friendships. Don't compromise. Don't compromise. Don't be treated poorly. When you feel lonely, run to Jesus. He is your first friend. If you've never run to Jesus, in this moment, we're just going to take a moment. I just want to give you an opportunity to run to Jesus. If you've never invited him to come into your heart, we're going to take a moment to do that right now. So can I just get everyone to just close your eyes and bow your heads? And if you have never invited Jesus into your heart and you're thinking, I don't even know what this friendship is that she's talking about. I don't know what this relationship is that she's talking about. Now's your moment. If you don't understand that love and that joyous feeling that I'm describing, now is your moment. So I just encourage you, while every believer is praying, if you've never asked Jesus into your heart, to just lift your hand. I don't want to embarrass you. I'm not going to call you out to the front. This is between you and God. I'm just going to linger here for a moment. If you want to ask Jesus to come and live in your heart and be your best friend, your first friend, I'm just going to ask you to just lift your hand right now. I just want to linger just a little bit more. It's not too late. He's right here waiting for you with open arms. And he loves you so much. He called you and chose you. Okay, let's all say this prayer together. Say, "Dear Jesus, thank you for first loving me. Thank you for calling me friend. I admit that I am a sinner, and I ask your forgiveness. Thank you for dying on the cross so that I can be washed clean. Come live in my heart and be my friend always. Amen." And then before we move on to the next part, if this word's resonated with you this morning, and if you're feeling lonely and you're feeling broken, like I said, we're going to do something really practical soon for that. But if you're feeling lonely and you're feeling broken, while Pastor Steph starts to play, just place your hand on your heart. Place your hand on your heart. It's between you and God. No one else is looking. And you can ask God for a friend. You can ask God for that safe place to bring that person into your life that you can be friends with. You can ask God to teach you how to be a friend. Just say this prayer after me. I lay down all my brokenness. I lay down all my bitterness. I ask you to heal my heart. Heal my heart from the pain. Heal my heart from the disappointment. And help me to be a good friend. Bring good friends into my life. Safe community. And help me to be bold to reach out. Amen. And while we've got some time left, we're going to activate that. We're going to activate it right now. Because like I said, this is a safe space. You're in a safe space right now where we can put these things into action. And we're going to do it right now. So can I please have all of the life group leaders and assistant leaders? If you are a life group leader or an assistant leader, can you please stand up? This is the pastoral care arm of our church. This is where you go for friendship and community. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to pray for each other. We're not going to come to the front for prayer. We're going to pray for each other. So you grab your friend. You get into groups of 2, 3, 4. Grab your friend, and we're going to pray for our friends. This is not a time to pray big, massive, long-winded prayers and prophesy over each other. It's a time to pray blessing. I bless my friend, love my friend, build my friend up. And if you are someone that's sitting here going, I don't know where to go, I don't know what friend to go to, I'm a little bit scared, I'm a little bit shy, that's why we have life group leaders. Grab a life group leader. They are looking out for you. Life group leaders, this is an opportunity to, fill your life groups as well. And then it is life group week this week. So you can put that into action again. Go to life group. Put your faith into action by doing something practical and intentional and reaching out, taking your friendship to the next level. So grab someone, take some time to pray with your friends. Life group leaders, do not let anybody be on their own. Be really intentional looking for people on their own. Reach out. Let's go and do that right now. There's a healing that comes from friendship. There's a confidence and a boldness that comes when you step out. And I pray that some of you would have gone to new levels just doing that. Just stepping out, smiling at someone, praying with someone. Because there's new levels.
Just before we dismiss the service, just what Pastor Bronlyn was preaching, I was reminded that we want to have our 4 friends. Yeah? And we want to have Jesus. But there are people that are going through stuff that is some pretty deep stuff. We don't want to minimize that. We understand that people are going through some things. And I was reminded that in the story of Jairus, he's reaching out for help. And he reaches out to Jesus. And then there's distractions. He knows who to go to, but there's distractions. And he's on his way back to his house. And then there's the woman with the issue of blood. And there's a distraction. And by the time that Jairus gets back to his house, his daughter's dead. The stuff that, the hope, the dream, the daughter's dead. And there are people here this morning that you're going through some stuff and you're at the point now where you think it's dead. It's dead. But can I encourage you this morning that it's not dead? Because our God, I want to tell you, our God, he doesn't just resurrect. He is the resurrection and the life. So we're going to close the service, but if you need prayer this morning, if you're going through some stuff, Pastor Bron and the team are going to hang around down the front. So come down and meet the one who is the resurrection and the life. It doesn't matter what's going on in your life. It doesn't matter how far you think it's gone. It doesn't matter if it's dead. Our God is the God of the resurrection. So come down this morning.